Thank you, Bhagvat, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so the audience kind of wants to know, you've been doing really well in med school. You scored in a 270s on your step two. Let's kind of dive into it. What did you study for step two, essentially? What did you start with?
Yeah, I think step two is essentially just a summary of your entire medical school process, geared more towards the clinical stuff. And so I think most of the studying was actually done in the first 2 years of medical school, really getting all the content that we learned about and just building on it. I think step two, specifically, what I did in my third year was doing a lot of practice questions. I feel like that forced me to think about how to apply a lot of the concepts that we've been talking about throughout medical school
Uh,
and think a little bit deeper. First of all, just thinking, is the patient sick or not? And I feel like it's a very simple question when you really think about it, but when you go deeper, it actually forces you to think about management a lot more. And I think that kind of switch from what's the diagnosis to what is the next best step in management was something that doing practice questions and seeing patients and talking to residents, fellows, attendings during rotations and seeing how they think really helped me think about step two more specifically. And it kind of helped me overall.
okay. Okay. So you said a lot of practice questions. Like, give us an example. Like, how many practice questions are you talking about?
So in my third year, I did all of UWorld and I did it for my clerkships going in my first pass. So for the shelf exams, I think there's about 3,500 questions or so in step two UWorld. And by the time I took my test, I did that question bank about 3 times.
3 times.
Um,
Oh,
and then AMBOSS, I think I did about 2,000 or 3,000 of those questions prior
oh,
to step two. And then there's the NBME forms that are available.
mhm.
I think most of the practice tests have like 200 questions each.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Did you do
and so I
all?
did all of those practice tests. So say
Okay.
upward of a couple thousand questions
Probably close to
or
10,000.
10,000. Yeah, 10,000.
When you're doing your second, especially your third pass of UWorld, did it even help at that point? Or you just, how does that work in your brain? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, I think going through your world multiple times forces you to think about different things. My first time, my goal was just to get the question right, and it
Mhm.
didn't work most of the time. My second time, it was more about solidifying the concepts and make sure I wasn't guessing for the answer and making sure I fully understood it.
Okay.
My third time, I think I prioritized more of why are the other answers wrong? And during my first 2 times, I focused mostly on what the right answer was and what the two or three other ones that I was really considering and thinking that through. But I think my third pass was more about looking at the fourth and fifth option and making sure I really understood that concept. So if they gave me a similar question, but on a different kind of different trajectory that might have put, answer 4 or 5 as correct for my actual test day, I actually knew the concept and I was able to understand those concepts. So I think it kind of helped bring it all together for me.
Got it. Okay. So you kind of covered all the bases of everything in the question through each attempt that you did. Okay. And you only went through Amboss one time, that like
Yeah,
most of it one time.
yeah. I
Okay.
felt that UWorld and the NBMEs are a little bit more similar to the actual test.
Sure. Yeah. Did you do incorrects for like did you do incorrect blocks?
Yeah. So including in my passes would be going through all the questions once, but then everything I got incorrect, I would do those as many times as I needed to make sure they went into the correct category.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And then more of a personal thing. So since I've done UWorld, and I know there's a reset button you could do it once, when you're in your third attempt, what logistics did you do to it? Because I know when I did that, tried to go through all of it again, it just kept giving me the same set of questions.
Okay. Yeah. So I think the time between my first and second pass
Mhm.
were long enough because I was going through my clerkships and everything at the same time
Yeah.
that I didn't actually reset it at that point.
Mhm.
And I just did all the corrects again.
Mhm.
Um, And I felt like there, it was like 6, 8 months between me doing my first and second pass that it felt a little bit newer, although there were definitely questions that overlapped.
Mhm.
Um, and then after that, I did the full reset and then did my third pass as a completely blank slate.
Okay, so third is blank. Okay, cool, cool. Now kind of diving in, not just from what you've done. I've known you for a while. I know how you think, but a lot of these people that don't know you, people watching right now, what is your thinking during this process? Like, what is your mindset? What keeps you motivated? What's your goals at? How do you keep working? How do you not get tired, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes down to doing what you enjoy and knowing that even if you don't like taking tests,
Yeah.
this is part of getting the fundamental knowledge so that you can take care of patients in the future. No matter what you do, I think it's important to have a good fund of knowledge so that you can utilize it to take care
Mhm.
of patients properly.
Yeah.
Um, and kind of the biggest thing that I'm thinking about is that for any patient I'm taking care of, I want them to have the best possible physician. Um, and for me to become that person, I need to work really hard. And so I feel like that kind of helps put in the work, whether it's for studying for a test or performing well on clinicals, staying late, coming early, all of those things. I think thinking about the patient and what I enjoy doing is kind of the mindset I have.
So,
I
so
think,
you're
yeah.
what you could do.
Oh no, I was gonna say like you really have to love what you do in order to do it. I think medicine in general is a very difficult field, and if you're not passionate about taking care of patients and learning medicine and being curious and interested in the things we're learning, I think it's very difficult.
Okay. Kind of more that peering more into that. I mean, most people in medicine, everyone struggles. It's hard. It's not nothing easy. And it's probably arguable that everyone has somewhat of a passion for medicine. But what kind of passion do you have for medicine? What is your driving force? You want to be the best doctor, best in your specialty? Is that your driving force that keeps you working, getting those great scores and everything?
Yeah, I think the reality of becoming a physician actually, in my opinion, doesn't have too much to do with how much you know. I
Mm.
think it has more to do with how you can care for patients and how you talk to patients.
Hmm.
And for me, being the best, I'm going into surgery, being the best surgeon I can be means being present for my patient and doing anything I can to make them feel better, regardless if that's with a medical intervention or just sitting there and talking to them.
Hmm.
So I think for me, that's kind of my driving factor. And in order for me to do that to the best of my ability, I need to make sure that I'm really good at, the academic side of it. I
Sure.
know my medicine, I know my surgery, I know, the management of different diseases, even if those aren't necessarily diseases that I'm going to be treating in the future. I feel like a lot of the medical students I talk to say, oh, I'm going into pediatrics or I'm going into internal medicine, I'm going into neurology. I don't need to know X. I don't need to know Y in the future. And that might be true.
Mm.
Medicine's becoming very subspecialized, and a lot of the times we consult for things that are outside of a particular specialty scope of practice. But I think having a general foundational layer of information, which is what the USMLE STEP exams test,
Mhm.
is helpful in order to make sure that you're calling the right people, you're doing the right workup, you're not delaying workup in patient care, waiting for a consult to come. And I think just having that comprehensive overview allows you to make sure that nothing is missed or no mistakes are made when it
Mm.
comes to patient care.
Okay. So that's what keeps you motivated to keep going further. What keeps you sane in those hours when, especially like step two time, when you're dedicated, you're studying all day long. What keeps you, in your spot?
Yeah, I think you have to do things that you enjoy outside of medicine.
Mhm.
For me, I enjoy playing basketball.
Sure.
Um, During the time when I was studying for step two, the NBA playoffs were going on. And so, you know, being able to watch in the evenings and have something to look forward to, I think is definitely important. And then, having periods of time where you're just taking a break from studying, from doing medicine, doing anything. I feel like those are very important so that when you are doing medicine, you're able to do it 100%. And I think quality is so much more important than quantity.
Mm.
It's not worth studying for 14, 16 hours a day if you're not, fully efficient. I think it's more beneficial to do 4 hours where you're 100%, you're putting in everything, and then you're taking the rest of the time off. If you're able to get more done, I think that's going to be the most kind of important.
Most important thing. Okay. If you don't mind, can you give the audience an example of like, let's say you're 3 weeks out from your step two. What did you do? What from wake up till sleep? What was your day?
Yeah. When I was in my step two dedicated, most days I would try to wake up and go to the gym first.
Sure.
I felt like that was a good way for me to get my energy up before actually sitting down
Hmm.
doing the practice tests.
Hmm.
Usually I'd, try to wake up around 5, get back from the gym around 7:38 when I sit down and get a couple blocks in.
Okay.
I would try to do 2 blocks of 1 hour straight.
Sure. Okay. Doing
So
like just blocks.
yeah, I tried to most of the time, at least 3 weeks out, I was doing practice questions mostly. So I would do like sets of 40 practice questions. Um, but even when I was doing content review, typically in the evenings, I would still try to do them in blocks where I just practice sitting for an hour studying something, whatever it was. Even when, I was doing research or I was doing other things during my step two dedicated, I would try to do them in 1 hour blocks just to get myself used to, sitting for that long. Um, and so I would do 2 hours in the morning, take like a 5-10 minute break, go to the bathroom, do a quick chore, whatever I needed to, and then do another 2 hours. Then take like a 20-30 minute break for lunch,
Mhm.
do another 2 hours, take a 5 minute break, do whatever really quickly, and then do another 2 hours. And so that would be about 8 hours by about 4:30, 5,
8 hours
five-ish
of doing questions themselves.
of doing questions
Okay.
until about 5 p.m.
Uh,
At that point, depending on how tired I was feeling, I might take like an hour break, go outside, do something. Or if I felt like I had a little bit of energy, I would just do another hour of like reviewing questions from the previous day or reviewing content. Then
So
I would
doing
typically take an
questions, quick stutter
Mhm.
question. You didn't go back and review your questions, you just did.
So during dedicated, I tried to do it more of like a test kind of simulation where I would finish the blocks and then review my things at the end of the day.
Okay, end of the day. Gotcha. And how long did that take you to review like 4 different block or how many is that? Two
Eight.
blocks, yeah.
Usually, maybe like an hour.
Really?
I think I think my review strategy wasn't as efficient as or as in wasn't as robust as what other people do.
Sure.
I think I kind of just went through if I got the question right, I just moved on. If I got the question wrong, I just figured out, what was the content I didn't know or what was the reason. But I didn't spend too long kind of going question by question and like reading up everything. Because I
Was
think I was
that
more
the
of an
third attempt on your world?
yeah, like it was multiple attempts, or even on NVMe practice questions that I've only seen once. I feel like I'm more of an active learner, and so I do a little bit better when I'm actively thinking about it rather than just reading, the summary that they gave me. And so because of that, I would kind of do review a little bit quicker than other people usually advise people to do.
So even on your first like run through your world, you didn't review for much time.
Not too much. Usually, if it was a concept I knew, I would just move on. If it wasn't a concept I knew, one thing I did that I thought was helpful was I had like on my iPad, like a list of notes of everything that I got wrong or I didn't understand fully. And so by the end of it, it became, 20, 30 pages of what I felt like were the most difficult concepts for me. And so that would be something that I would review to just make sure I was fresh on closer to exam date.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So like people who are in med school or going into med school, what advice, like what would you tell them to emulate the success you've had, not only in your steps, but like throughout your med school exams, what would you tell them to do is the best thing?
Yeah, I think falling in love with the process and falling in love with medicine. I think medicine is the best thing ever. You get to take care of vulnerable patients a lot of the times and really make an impactful difference for their lives and the lives of their families. And it's a marathon. There's so much you have to do. And even when you feel like you're close to the end, there's so much more training. And so I think if you have the mindset that you're going to enjoy everything that you're doing, you're going to work as hard as you can because you love it, not because you have to. I think you're just more likely to have success just because, we had tests every 2 weeks or something, starting off. And, you can study as hard as you can for one test and do, as well as you can, but there's going to be another one and another one and another one. And at one point, if you're just trying to get the best grade possible, you're going to run out of energy. You're just going to run out of steam. And I feel like if you look at it more from the perspective where this is an opportunity where if I do really well and I just, do my best every single day, it's gonna, I'm gonna be a doctor one day and I'm gonna be able to take care of patients. And, I feel like that's a reality that me and you are starting to see a little bit more and more as we get closer to graduation. But there were a lot of times when during our first couple of years of medical school, like I would forget that for days and just feel like I was in this endless cycle of just reading and studying information that I might never use again.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if you just keep that big picture in mind, that you're going to be able to take care of patients one day with this knowledge, it'll hopefully motivate you to get through this and you'll be excited about the whole journey.
Sure. I've been realizing that actually only my fourth year. Like it feels more exciting to learn because it's like, I can use this on people to help them. And
Yeah,
when did you realize that? Like, did you realize that before med school? Or
about
like just having that realization that everything I'm going to learn is going to get me to being that doctor to help others?
I think I think it started during like before medical school when I realized that, I will become a doctor at the end of this. And for me, that was just an amazing feeling. Um, and I think it became more tangible during my third year when we actually got to go out and do a lot of the things that we studied in our first 2 years of medical school. And I feel like tangibly utilizing that information and also just building more information and more of a knowledge base throughout my third year led to me being even more excited in my fourth year where I got to do surgery rotations, what I actually wanted to be doing with the rest of my life. And, learning the niche information that is very surgery specific and just being able to interact with so many people who are also excited about the same things I was. I felt that that was kind of a real turning point in terms of my motivation to kind of learn and just be excited about medicine.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Last thing I want to ask is, let's say you're looking at yourself 4 years ago in your first year. What advice would you tell yourself, or would you tell yourself any advice from that year?
Yeah, I think it would be to never give up and to do your best every single day, no matter what's going on and no matter what task you're doing, do your best on it. The reason why is a lot of the opportunities I've gotten have come from people or things that I never expected to. And whether that's, studying for an exam or working with someone or doing a research project or something, there were things that I was like, I got an opportunity and I was just doing it. And it ended up being so much more. And I think if you just do your best every single day and not worry about the outcome, I think it's going to lead to so much more growth because, we study every day. And I feel like if you try to measure your growth every single day, it becomes hard because you look back a week and you feel like there's no difference. And then, what have I been doing the last week? But then when you compare yourself from a year ago or 2 years ago, I feel like it's so much more different.
Mhm.
And that just comes from every single day, doing your best at anything, whether it's medicine related or anything in your life. If you're gonna, go out and run, or if you're trying to start a company on the side, or whatever you're doing outside of medicine, doing your very best on every single endeavor, every single moment. I feel like that's just gonna make you a lot happier with what you're doing, and also lead to much better outcomes in the long run.
Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you, Bhagvat, in general, for talking. I'm sure plenty of people are going to find this pretty helpful, especially those on their step two journey and just those in medical school. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely happy to help.
So we just talked to Bhagwat. He is our top tutor at the doctor journey. He is a 99 percentile score. As you just heard, he scored in the 270s on his step two. Done really well on everything in medical school. And we just took a deep dive into how he thinks, what he does, what keeps him motivated. And I think this is a great insight for everyone out there trying to do really well, trying to match into competitive specialties at the top schools in the nation. This is the guy, this is how to think. And if you guys want to get tutored by him, he is tutoring with us on the doctor journey. You can just email us at thedoctorjourney21@gmail.com. We'd be happy to help. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoy this and see you guys later. Bye bye.